Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 438, and today we're doing battle in a Singleton Gauntlet. And so this will be our first Singleton event of Heart of the Huntress. It's kind of exciting to me, as this is the first time we'll be playing an Eternal-based format with the Heart of the Huntress, and I wanted to come out and get to showcase some of the new cards. And so today, we're playing a base Nidalee deck. It's not a full-on build-around with Nidalee in terms of the transform cards and everything, but this is a nice, very kind of like action Sivir style deck. That I think Sivir has a good chance, or I'm sorry, that Nidalee has a good chance to perform in. She's such a similar card to Nidalee, and both of them being 4 cost, 5 power, quick attacking champions. But nonetheless, as we jump into this event, there's a couple of things that I like to really call out in these style of formats. And so a lot of the time, these games come down to who just has the strongest thing on the board for a turn. And so what you'll kind of find is we'll put down cards in the early game. We'll play a blocking Badger Bear. It'll trade with something else. But as the game progresses, eventually, like, opponent's going to play an 8-drop and we're going to deal with it. We're going to play an 8-drop and the opponent will deal with it. The opponent doesn't do a whole lot on their next turn. They just play like a 4-drop, and then we say, boom, here's an 8-cost Darken. They don't answer it, you win the game. And so I think it's very important in these kind of events to both like load your deck up with ways to do expensive things. And so this is a format to where you really get to use things like, say, Feel the Rush, is to where you play it, and then if your opponent doesn't answer it, you just say, oops, I won the game, right? And so we're really looking for a lot of those really high-powered things. I don't really recommend trying to play aggro decks or anything. I think the power level is kind of king here. Playing off of that, one of the most popular decks right now is going to be a Karma-based control. It's just a control pile deck to where you're playing all of the control-y cards out of P and Z and Targon and whatever third faction you want. It tends to just be like a load of removal spells and heal, and then at the end of the day, you're like, oops, here's a Karma, or you're like, oops, here's a Seraphine with a back alley bar, and just trying to do as much as you can as the game progresses up into, say, like turn 10. And so the way I like to combat that is a way, something I really like with this style of deck that we have here. Our unit selection is a bit odd, right? I've kind of gone out of my way to include a number of high health units and also tough units. So you do see things like the Steadfast Elkin and the Vanguard Defender. These are just exceptionally strong at defending against things like Mystic Shots and High Notes and the like, just small ways to deal points of damage. We also have, some fairly large high health units like the blocking Badger Bear and the Petricite Charger. Again, these are ways to where if opponent wants to just play damage-based removal to remove our units, they're going to have to play 2 cards to do it. Those all come over and tie in to the Aatrox-based equipment that we're playing. We're playing all of the equipment except for the Shadow Isles one that makes you kill off a unit, and then we also have a Swinging Glaive in here as actual equipment number 10. And so this, kind of cycles and ties everything all together as to where if we have these really kind of resilient units, we should be able to get a Darken equipment down on the board, get some kind of bonus and effect out of that unit. When opponent eventually deals with it, we now have the late game aspect of all of these Darken. And so it's a nice little bit of good early, good late that come out of these things. The last couple of things I want to call out with this is Aatrox is, of course, fantastic. Having access to Aatrox through all of the Darken equipment just gives us a way to come in and draw a really high-powered card. So in that sense, we don't really have to focus in too much on the late game stuff because Aatrox and the Darken cover it so well. We are playing a handful of spell shielded units today to try and help defend against those control decks. So we have the Avenging Vastaya, the Ruin Runner, and then Sivir. And then within our spell package, I like to have some removal, some ways to deal with a turn 1 Zoe. And so we have 5 or 6 removal spells here between the Fish Fights, the Cataclysms, the Quicksands, and the like. And then we're playing a couple of rallies, but we're not playing Champion Strength. I feel like Champion Strength is a little bit too expensive, and we don't really need the stat bonus that comes off of it. We'll probably just have a maximum of like 3 units on the board, and so getting those bonus stats don't really apply as much in a deck like this. And so that's it. That's the deck we're doing battle with today. But you know what we got to do before the battles begin? We got to pay that pay-to-win price. And we're paying up on the old Avenging Vastaya. It feels bad that we haven't given this the upgrade yet. I feel like, there weren't really any decks in Standard that I was super excited about playing in terms of Vastaya. We didn't play a ton of Nidalee. We weren't playing that gen deck or anything like that, and so we didn't really get much play with the Vistaya, but I think it's gonna see quite a bit of work in the Lands of Eternal as you run into a space to where cards like Feel the Rush are so prevalent, and then just having that resilient spell shieldy style of unit and like an action based deck. Lots of interesting things that can happen with it, or playing it out there with the Sun Disk and stuff. You know, just got a lot of really interesting options once it hits that Eternal space. All right, and so not the strongest of hands here. We'll hang on to the Vayne. I want to make sure that we have some kind of unit to play by the third turn of the game, and while I'm not really excited about a turn 3 Vayne, she fits the bill in that sense, but we've picked up some other cards now, make it a little bit easier to get some of these units on board with the Darken. In terms of the opponent, it's playing Vandal City, Freylord, PNZ. I would assume that this is a concurrent timeline space deck, to where they're going to try and do transformy stuff with concurrent timelines. I guess it doesn't completely fit the bill without the likes of the ambush cards in here, but we'll see how it plays out in just a moment. And so I think it's okay to start off with Nidalee. We'll just go ahead and drop the Shadows in the Brush, see if we can't get her loaded up with a bit of equipment. And then we don't need to be in a really big hurry about getting her flipped. We're not in a super aggressive state here. Maybe we will, though. See if we can't get that that Caitlyn block on the Shadows in the Brush. I assume he just lets it go. Oh, I don't know. I mean, we can get popped by a Brittle Steel here. That would be pretty harsh, but otherwise, I think this is pretty okay. Alright, well, rip Nidalee. You got in the game, you know. you got to get on board for a little bit. That counts for something, right? Counts for something. Alright, let's see if we can't recover a little bit. That was a nice trade for opponent, trading their 3 mana for our 5, and so hopefully we can do a little bit of recovering here with this Darkened Staff on our Scout unit. Get some of those manas back. Spear turns up. That's going to be our third equipment. Gives us a chance to draw towards the Aatrox if we want. But gonna look here. We can switch the Defector over to the Darkened Spear so it doesn't die to Caitlyn in combat. But let's get another unit on board before we really head down that route. Opponent's got a ton of mana here. I'm kind of curious to see what they spend it on. You would have expected him to just play a unit, right? It's very odd and strange that he's just hanging out on 7 mana. Okay, Aftershock's fine. Do we just want to keep getting the manas? I guess. I mean, it's not terrible. His block with Caitlyn's still not very good. Most of the effects out of these factions don't have a lot of plus attack style things, and so if he wants to block with Caitlyn, it's tough to win the combat, but it's very easy to clean up the Badger Bear with a removal spell after. Cool, give me that mana. The simple things in life, you know? The simple things in life. Alright, so in this space, I definitely want to be attacking with Jarvan next turn, so I'm going to look to put Jaral onto the board. We'll load Jaral up with the Darkened Spear, and then we'll take an open attack next round. I don't think we'll just, like, directly hit with Jarvan. We'll see how the options look. But if he only had Caitlyn on board, we could kind of consider hooking Caitlyn with the Jaral and then letting Jarvan just get that big, hasty open attack, if you will. Alright, Gnar gets the flip. He did hit, oh, he hit all the portals, huh? Not bad. That's pretty scary seeing the Rimefang Wolf turn up after he's already played one Frostbite on us. We'll see how this goes. I mean, at the end of the day, if he's just gonna like frostbite kill a blocking Badger Bear, I don't super care about it. But as we go into these next rounds, if he's gonna start adding in like a, we're gonna add Aatrox and don't have combat tricks, getting it killed by a Rhinefang Wolf kinda sucks. Fight on! Well, you get the flip Jarvan, but you do die in combat. Sad day for you. And then no way to spend this extra mana. Kind of a bummer. Had to stop and read the Balakux. I thought he might just sit around and generate stats. It's apparently not the way he works. Would have been cool if it was. Cool if it was. Let's see if we can't get this Stony Suppressor down. Now that he's got Victor on board, it's always nice to make Victor spend a little bit more mana to do what Victor wants to do. Looks like it's not going to be a requirement for the moment, but let's still get the Suppressor down. We only have the one Rite of Negation, so it's not like we're really doing a lot of spell stuff here. Curious what our World Ender is at. I know we've hit like 3 or 4 times with the blocking Badger Bear, and so it might be able to really pop off some stats here. It's interesting. I like having the mana tax on Giral for the opponent, but he's also got that Darkened Spear underneath, and we're kind of hurting for something to do. Interesting. He's gonna pastry toss the Suppressor.
I'm something of an aspiring trichologist.
Yeah, not a bad hit off our dragon. Here comes the expensive spell. That's fine. Then we'll look to come in with Sivir. Kind of a bummer for Sivir not being flipped yet, but kind of is what it is. You get the Darkened Staff, Egghead Researcher. You're ready. You're ready to give us those manas back. Oh, and then the Absolver turns up right as we get our Sivir on board. We can do the Absolver combo, like maybe next turn. If we get like say Vayne and a Tumble play or something, there'll be some interesting things we can do with the Absolver. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves though. Let's just add in Aatrox. Ender's at 12. Should be at like 7 by this point, right? It should be much lower. But I'm gonna look to take Victor off of the board. No, we're not gonna let a Buried in Ice happen. No thanks. Was he going to have a removal for Egghead? I didn't want to give up the mana gem. Like, this is a tough spot in terms of mana gems, right? Because we're about to max out on mana anyways, and so giving up the gem isn't horrible. But the big thing here is, like, I don't want to be losing these equipment. If the Buried in Ice pops, we lose both the Darkened Spear and the Darkened Staff. And so at least this way, like, if he has something to interact with the Researcher and counter this, it is going to... Very weird. Why would he do that? He puts the damage onto Aatrox for this turn. Is there a 1 mana card that does 2 damage? Guess we're gonna find out. Clearly something up. Like, why? Oh, no, he high-noted the Sivir to pop the spell shield. Okay, and then Aatrox was just the kind of leftover piece from that. That makes a little bit more sense. I was like, why are you dealing damage to Aatrox? Nothing comes to mind as a card that just deals a single point of damage, or 2 points of damage, but okay, okay. So let's see what he does. I'm not opposed to just dropping the World Ender here to get the flipped Aatrox and drop some dudes next turn. I guess it could be better. It's not a terrible spot just to go for some width, given that he's so close to dead and we do have the Absolver in hand. If you're not familiar with the Eternal cards, the Absolver gives out Overwhelm on its second cast. And so if you put it onto Sivir, then she spreads her Quick Attack and her Overwhelm across all of your units. Very nice number 2. Where'd this shit come from? I guess the original one was from Reggie? Alright, I guess. Can we just kill him here? This is a 4/4 Elkin. The Tumble is 5 mana. We're going to be a little bit short that way. Okay. A little bit short. Oh, big damage is coming in. Many strengths here, though, right? If he wants to play a wipe away your landmarks guy, the 8/8 thing, he's just going to get nuked, and so it's not really on the table for opponent. He needs that guy and a Harsh Winds or something, but he's 1 mana short there. I think we're okay. And we do have the Tumble mana for Anaka, so ideally what we would be able to do here is opponent plays a unit, we hook it with the Screeching Dragon, Elkin and Anaka get to do their thing. He has, Flash Freeze or something to stop the Anaka, but we get that extra free unit attacking, and then we can tumble Anaka again. Now I guess we do have a full board, so we may not be able to pull all that stuff off, but go for damage. Interesting. Avenging Vestaya doesn't look like it has Spell Shield out here. That's very interesting. She does, I assure you. Alright, GG. Mark it a W for bust. Whew. So yeah, sorry I didn't get one of these videos out yesterday. I was intending on doing a bunch of Singleton this week, because this is kind of the nothing to do week in terms of waiting on the next set to get here. But here's basically what happened to me. So we had the kitty tree. I don't think you can tell because I kind of blur out the background, but you might be able to occasionally see a cat climb up there and mess around. But it just got old and gross. I replaced the ropes on it manually once, but now it's the carpet's coming up and the ropes need to be replaced again, and somebody puked on it, and so I was just kind of done with it. So I bought another kitty tree, which meant I had to disassemble the old one. So we disassembled the old one, the new one came in, assembled that one, and then it had some wood pieces on it that didn't have carpet, and I was like, I don't know about this. This strikes me as being kind of sketchy, right? If you've ever seen a cat run across a hardwood floor or linoleum or something, they don't have the greatest of skills in terms of surviving those actions, and that's immediately what I thought as soon as I got that thing. I was like, there's wood on here. They're gonna be trying to climb this wood, and then they're just gonna fucking fall off. And that's exactly what happened. I felt so bad. The black cat that we put on here, he's such a sweetheart. He's so curious, but he's just also kind of fucking dumb. And he was the first to try to climb it, and that was immediately what happened. He started trying to climb it, and then he was slipping off, and then his claw got stuck in some of the carpet on it, so he was just kind of hanging there by his claw. I thought he might have broke his finger, but he was completely fine. But I was like, oh, this isn't gonna work. So then I had to I had to take it all apart. And so that was my day in large part yesterday, was disassembling a cat tree, assembling a cat tree, and then disassembling another cat tree, and that unfortunately got into the video making space. But all right, let's dive in. We're in, it's tough to tell what this guy's basically going to be doing, right? He's playing PNZ Noxus. There's some control elements here like Easy Swain. There are some aggro elements here like Jinx and Draven and the rest of the champions, and so I think this is probably just a good cards deck. And I'm not going to be like super invested in taking this Draven down, but as it stands, all of our units are just better than our opponent's units, and so if he has to like take his turn to spend a bunch of mana to protect the Draven, can't add more units, like that all sounds wonderful to me. And so whatever he wants to do here to not do aggro stuff to us is going to be a win at the end of the day. Brothers Bond was pretty good. Like Draven's going to fall though.
The money makers.
Is this a Whirling Death? Okay. He doesn't get the flip this way. I think that's what he kind of intended, playing the Spinning Axe. You need to Whirling Death a different unit and then get the strike with Draven, and so that didn't quite happen for him. Okay, so fine. We're facing down a Draven. He just did a bunch of shit we don't care about. He spent a bunch of mana on stuff, and I feel pretty decent about that go round. Now this is kind of interesting with the Dragon Prince Grinzo along with the Darkened Fan being able to summon these additional one-cost units and get that mana back. So we'll see if that's something that turns out to be interesting this game. But same kind of spot here. If we get to do neato stuff and take these units down, then great. If opponent wants to spend a bunch of mana just like trying to kill units, okay. Draven is going to flip here. A little bit of potential for scaries out of that, but we're just kind of like one card away from really popping off. I'm going to hold on to the Darkened Fan. No, the Bakai is not going to be quite big enough to take Draven down. Let's see, maybe we'll go for this. We can say like Fish Fight and then Cataclysm, but that's going to put us in a place to where he gets a bunch of Spinning Axes in hand. So do we want to Rite of Negation this? It's tough. Like, getting up to 8 mana is so important. That's going to be what lets us start to add the other Darken to the board. It's just super awkward hand at this point. Fine. Like, hopefully we can recover out of this. We're going to take a super bank here, unfortunately. But if we draw a unit and we're able to attack with it and Cataclysm with it, fuck. Then we'll be in good shape. That's just a pure disaster of a draw. Like, I think it was okay to let the unit die. Like, it wasn't quite capable of doing a ton of work onto this board. So, we have a lot of ways to... God damn it. Oh, that's frustrating. Like, I feel like we managed that one spectacularly. Like, everything we wanted to have happen happened. We were just a unit short of being able to do anything there. That's frustrating. Right, it was like opponent was doing like literally everything we want to see an opposing aggro deck have to do, where they're just spending their burn spells on units. They're not, like, whenever you play Brothers Bond, you really want to be like attacking and killing one unit and getting damage in with another unit. He played Nox and Fervor to kill off one of our own units. Like, these are all things that from the aggro perspective, you really just want to be sending to the opponent's face. And like, we just had everything going so perfectly there. Just didn't have any units. I guess you could say, well, Bust, he did kill your units with the Brothers Bond and stuff, but that's That's not exactly it. I mean, we just had way too much stuff in our hand. But should be up against a similar deck here. Samira, Elise, Gwen with Misfortune strikes me as being a really aggressive deck. I don't really care what equipment we draw as long as we draw some of them, so I'm going to take the full mulligan here. I would have been tempted to hang on to a Darken, the same one we had last game, the Darken Fan, if that would have put us in a spot to where, you know, we could heal from it, but this is one of the things you run into with the equipment deck is you actually have to have units to put the equipment on, and that's what we were a little bit more interested in. So I'm going to drop the suppressor, just get a good blocker on the board. We can go ahead and look to throw a ballista down onto it if we want. Let it be a little bit more effective in combat. And I don't think we want to attack.
To serve the greater good.
This is going to be one of these decks that can fill out their board, but we're not going to fill out our board. So I don't want to,
Nice to meet you. I'm Isla.
you know, break the limit. See, like, if he wants to get 6 units on the board, he can, but we can't fill out our board, and so no real reason to get those units into combat like that. Alright, getting low though. We're definitely recovering in terms of card quality, but hopefully it's enough.
Monsters still lurk in Demasia's every shadow.
Welcome, one and all, to the Midnight Rebel!
Do some more of this blocking stuff everybody's talking about. And Draven back to the party. Okay. How bad could it be, right? How bad could it be? So we definitely want to block Draven. He's going to be the biggest source of damage. We want Gwen to block something where she'll survive.
Say your prayers.
Looks like about as good as it's going to get. Get ourselves down into that decimate range. We're getting close. We're getting close.
Sand and trouble far as the eye can see.
Alright, opponent's only got 1 card in hand at this point. It'd be nice to get 2 units on the board. It's like that's just not going to happen. Just not happening today.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So we gotta just start dropping some of these equipment. I don't think this is a turn for Tumble. I mean, we can look to say Tumble the Ruin Runner and put a Darkened Harp on it. I'm not completely opposed to that. Our sequencing doesn't quite work out perfectly to where we can play, say, like the Harp first and then get multiple attacks out of this stuff, but, well, yeah, we can. We can do this. We can Ballista onto action. We're gonna put... Let's just Tumble from here. I'm gonna just stop. I was about to mess that up. There's no real reason to go that deep. Now, where this kinda sucks is tumbling an equipment onto the board doesn't count for Aatrox, right? So we're gonna put the Darkened Lodestone here. You might be saying to yourself, Bust, you've just played 3 equipment, right? We played a Lodestone, we've got a Ballista, and we've got a other thing, whatever that one is graciously called. The Ballista, the Harp, and the Lodestone, but we didn't pick up an Aatrox because the Tumble doesn't count. This is good. This is good. As it stands, he's kind of got 4 damage in place here. Falling Sensation. Was not expecting him to fill out his board. So we should just be dead. He's got 2 damage out of hand.
Finally,
He
some
didn't
action.
pick up any interactivity.
Very well.
Hey! Oh, come now.
Yep. GG. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. It's like we've tuned out our deck to be strong against Karma, and then Karma's just not turning up today. Kind of is what it is. Alright, GG. On to the next one. That was tough. Like I feel like that aggro game was kind of whatever. I think if we'd kind of gotten out of that turn, we would have been okay. It was the one previous as to where it was pretty meh in terms of just not actually having any units. All right, reasonable enough start though. This time we're up against. This is going to be a more control-heavy deck with the Karma Seraphine. Ionia PNZ is running Bandle City as his third faction. No Targon. You usually see Targon in these kind of control piles, but it's okay. See what he thinks about our Petricite Charger coming in. The Darkened Harpoon. That's where you get him. That's where you get him.
Ready for deployment!
So I'm going to wait on the Petricite Broadwing. I don't think we need to be dropping it this early. Like, if he gets us with Nora, I guess you got us. But I'm wanting to get these more kind of lower value and resilient units on the board. So we'll get the Chronomancer in. We're going to be drawing an extra one, right? And so probably just want the Stony Suppressor on top.
With the power of time,
That should be enough to cause the opponent some problems. What's this guy's name? Ibaros. This like Darkened Harpoon is so close to just being off the charts good. Like Ibaros is such a good unit, but he runs into so many problems. It's like getting nuked by Hush is pretty awkward for him.
See what I've learned?
Now here comes the squad. Look at that. Get this good aggro squad out here. These dudes that are barely good enough for constructed. Coming in strong. This definitely looks like we're out here playing we're playing an expedition or something.
I will play my part.
I think we'll just take the damage from the Dragonling. We're not really at risk of dying anytime soon. This doesn't strike me as, you know, one of these matches to where we just need to prevent every single point of damage. And so we'll just go ahead and let that one come in. We'll probably regret it as Lee Sin comes on the board, but it's what it is. Who do we got now? An Egghead?
Heroes go hungry.
Just add in Sivir. We won't attack with the Suppressor, but all of our other attacks are good. The thing I typically say with Stony Suppressors, you don't really expect it to just win you the game. You don't say like, "Ha, you're playing Seraphine. I just beat you because I put my Stony Suppressor on the board." It's typically more so along the lines of, you know, if they have to spend an extra 2 or 3 or 4 mana, then that's usually enough to really cause them some serious problems and slow them down. Opponent's gonna try and do some Lee Sin stuff to us, and so the Suppressor should be decent at making him put in a little more work. Right, Sivir's halfway there, got her up to 15. She's ready to just get killed by Lee Sin. But again, if he wants to give him Challenger Barrier, it's going to cost 2 mana. And if we get the initiative here, we can drop, say, like a Swinging Glaive and be protected with Ranger's Resolve. So she's got some opportunities for strength on this turn.
Your path alone.
I guess his more likely angle is trying to Lee Sin into the Suppressor, which we can kind of counterspell with Ranger's Resolve. Depends on what his spells are, right? If he wants to, say, put a Wuju style and then put the bonus attack onto Zed, or if he wants to play Shockwave or Sonic Wave, whatever it's called, put the bonus attack onto Zed. We're all fairly safe from those angles.
Time is money.
So this has to just be a +2 attack card, right? There's not a lot we could do about it. We could put the Chronomancer in front of Lee Sin and Sivir in front of Zed. And then I guess if he wants to, he has to kind of make the choice. And does he want to take down Sivir, or does he want to protect Lee Sin? What? So he Mystic Shot face.
Here's your cut.
And then proceeds to facepalm. So I don't think that went exactly how opponent had intended it. And let's go ahead and protect our stuff. Uh-oh. Don't think that's how they intended it. So this is one of these kind of interesting places to where we can do a bunch of overwhelm stuff in the middle of combat, since we just got the overwhelm thing onto Sivir. And so we can attack like this, send her out to the left. Her strike is going to be the one that gets the flip. Then Jarvan's going to come in and hook this Shadow Assassin, and then he should be getting the Spell Shield Overwhelm in the middle of combat. Now, it's not to say opponent can't be like, playing spells and getting Sivir knocked out of the way, but all these other cards in our hand kind of suck, right? And so I don't think we're missing out on too much. So this is kind of like as we were playing against that aggro deck, to where if we can get him to just spend a bunch of mana on like having Sivir not kill him, we might be in a spot next turn to where we can just kill him with Cataclysm. This is a pretty tall order to deal with this Sivir, though. The Suppressor making all the spells more expensive, and then her Spell Shield. So I would say it's more likely like a stun coming down onto Jarvan as opposed to something stopping Sivir.
Perhaps they realize they've already lost.
That doesn't do anything towards what you want. Okay, GG.
My work.
Sivir passing out those overwhelms.
Blood or gold. I
All
always
right,
skip.
GG. We did it. We won a game. I didn't think it was possible anymore, but at the end of the day, we did it. Right, next battle. Is this the dude we played earlier? I think it is. Yeah, it is. Alright, so same kind of deal. Let's find something a little bit more early game. I don't care what equipment turn up as long as something does. And then we at least found a 3-drop in Vayne. Not quite what we're looking for, and it always sucks with this deck to naturally draw your Aatrox. Just playing the singular copy is kind of a bummer, but we'll make the most of it. So as it stands, we'll lead off this next turn with Badger Bear. I don't want to play Vayne and then have her just get hit by an Aftershock. Very portally hand coming out of the opponent, though. Says, I know how to activate all my chimes and boons. What you got? Sting Officer coming in? I think I'm gonna block out here to the left. There's just an absolute ton of ways for this deck to deal 1 point of damage, but it's a little bit more challenging for the deck to deal 2 points of damage, and so we'll take one to the face. I'm not super worried about the attack damage the opponent's capable of. We'll gain at least like 4 health back off the Aatrox, so it feels marginally safe there.
Patience, cautious, and quiet. This is our way.
Right, he picks up the stance swap. He says, I'm gonna 1 damage AoE my whole team. It's gonna feel real good. It's gonna feel real good.
Those who kill innocents are no more than fiends.
Right, so we're gonna load the Darken Harp onto Vayne. I'm gonna say, I'm ready. I'm ready to draw my Aatrox. Oops. Turns out we already got him. Sure.
Wrap 'em up tight.
Guess we could have blocked that Sting Officer last turn, right? Kind of forgot about that guy. Probably would have been a little bit more astute way to use our blocking Badger Bear.
Our teeth, they will see.
Alright, so that's kind of a rough round, but we got Aatrox ready to go this next turn, and if he sticks, we should be in the point after that to where we can just keep the Rite of Negation mana up with Aatrox on board and feel really safe. Now we got these 4 or 5 Chronomancers ready to party as well. Wow, he just immediately hits Elusive, huh? I wasn't planning on blocking Victor, but it's not bad. We're at like actual risk of dying once that nonsense happens. He gets to hit for say like 5 Elusive and then start sending Burn to our face, or attack with like 5 Elusive and hit it with Fury of the North and then have Burn to the face after that. Like, this is a very dangerous spot with this Victor hitting Elusive. Rip Vayne. Oh, he's going big. He's going big. I dig it. I dig it. I don't know how we're gonna fight our way through that. Guarantee you his next one hits Spell Shield. We don't currently have an answer to the Victor as it is, but that's the way things typically go. So how are we gonna get through this? I mean, we can attack with Aatrox and then tumble Aatrox, or we can tumble Aatrox first if we want to say put a Darken Harp on him, make him a little bit more resilient to these combos. It's not enough health though. I think we're gonna have to Chronomancer this turn. Let's see what we can put on top. Concerted Strike will hopefully get the job done.
We look ahead, we know
So
how
we
to
know we're at
prepare.
least safe in that sense.
Energy core upgrade.
Faded. Okay. It's also nice with the picking up the strike card potentially for Aatrox. Alright, so all I'm going to do here, I'm going to add the shadows in the brush. I was expecting him to have a lot more mana on this turn, but I think this is okay. I don't want to fall below the 3 bank. I want to be able to both Concerted Strike and Rite of Negation next turn. Like, if he has Harsh Winds, then we're just boned, but that's going to be our best angle to get this Victor dealt with. It was just, maybe we could have attacked, we should have attacked with Aatrox on that last turn. Once he tapped down to 2 mana, we knew we were kind of safe. So I think if we'd gotten like Aatrox trade into Victor, then absolutely wonderful. I think that gives us a definite opportunity to just outright lose this game now. A little sloppy from Old Bust.
Look, a thing.
Elf, that's not ours.
Do this the other way. Aatrox then Nidalee. Nidalee's technically big enough to take down the Victor. So if he has a singular flash freeze kind of card, god damn it. Okay, GG I guess. Alright, rough gauntlet, but we could pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. And so, like, the thing with this deck, it was, I still like quite a bit that was going on with it. I know we didn't have a super successful run. I think a couple of those games were a touch of nonsense, but the idea behind this deck is still quite strong in the sense that the equipment are all so good in the early game and so good in the late game, and then having the things like Avenging Vastaya and Rite of Negation to counter spells, those big spells like Buried in Ice coming at us, are so incredibly strong to get going. And so the place where this got a little bit awkward for us was just not really having enough units in the deck, or at least our units just dying too frequently. And so we were kind of in that space to where, you know, maybe we need to fit in a couple of more. We technically have 21 of the cards in our deck being units, and it feels kind of tough to start cutting some of this stuff out. But I mean, I could definitely see an argument for, say, cutting out a Swinging Glaive and cutting out a singular rally, like either a Relentless Pursuit or a Golden Aegis, and then just fitting in a touch more units. And the units, like, I was very happy with all of them we presented. I know it sounds kind of memey and dumb when you're out here playing with Vanguard Defenders and stuff, but these things are you know, actually thought out in the sense that having 3 health or 2 health tough is such a big deal in this format in terms of getting a unit down, being good against aggro, being good against control, and then also just being a place to where you can just drop in equipment as you look to build up to your Aatrox. And so I think we're pretty good in that sense. One of the things I used to do a lot in these Shurima style decks is the spells and the big cards are just so important to draw at the right time that you like having a lot of predicts in it. And so I think the other thing I would probably look to do is to just cut out Nidalee. She was not very impressive. We don't have any combos with her. We're just playing Nidalee for the sake of saying we have the Heart of the Hunters cards in our deck, and then play Zillion. And Zillion does a lot of what you're really looking for in the units, and that he's a 2-drop. He gets equipped quickly. He's resilient to against the aggro decks. If you load him up with the Darkened Spear, he can just, you know, chunk in a bunch of stats in your deck. But he's just, you know, a good blocker and a good equipment holder that also predicts, and then that predict can lead into finding the right cards at the right time. So otherwise, you know, pretty happy with this. I like all of the spell shields. I like all of the counter spells. I like all of the equipment tied in with the Aatrox. It's a very powerful start for a deck. We just had a pretty bad run of it there, and we played a little bit sloppy, so the results didn't look quite how we wanted. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust and me. Thank you for being here.